All Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the country. Now, you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of over there? Because over there, they don't care about anything you have to say. They say this all the time. They talk down to us. They say that we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube, Twitter. But I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and it's turning into something truly, truly special. And I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. And I think we're well on our way to doing it. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching First Things First. Talk about whether or not the Lamar Mahomes will be like the new Brady Manning rivalry. I guess we've moved on from Josh Allen and Mahomes being that. And I didn't see this quote. You can see that it says Lamar and Mahomes don't like competing against him. I didn't see this quote, so I'm not really sure the context. But let's just jump right into it and see.
I like his authenticity. And it does feel like you're underrating Mahomes when you say he's definitely a Hall of Famer. Like,
yeah.
like, oh yeah, you think? But
do you want the question?
Yes.
Officially, Brew, is Lamar Mahomes the real Manning Brady rivalry?
It's certainly more Manning Brady than Josh Allen and Mahomes is. All right, and here's why. We all presume that Lamar's going to win his second MVP. So you got two guys with MVP. Mm-hmm. Both of them have two MVPs. Both of them have two All-Pro recognition, awards, and obviously they've been multiple, to Pro Bowls. So you can throw Joe Burrow, Mahomes in there, and obviously Burrow beat him in the playoffs. Maybe C.J. Stroud will emerge. Who knows? So there are other potential. There are other. Yes. Battles that could end up being Brady Manning. We'll see how it ends up. But this is definitely more than Josh Allen Mahomes, because Josh Allen, all he has is two Pro Bowls.
Thank you.
And I think he's great, but two Pro Bowls, that's it. It's not even close.
So listen, it's a better question because Lamar has some real pelts on the wall. Right. There's two different types of real accolades, in my opinion, you get in the NFL. Postseason success and high-level individual honors. Lamar is now two-time, from the individual honors perspective, he has the same trophy case as Mahomes, right, or he will here in a couple weeks, right? You have two MVPs. So it's closer, but and this is not disrespectful to
he has that unanimous
Lamar.
MVP.
I don't think Mahomes has a rival.
That's correct.
It's a Tiger Phil situation. It's a Gretzky, Lemieux, Messier situation where there is a clear-cut, unquestioned best, and then that doesn't mean they win every year. That doesn't, you know what I mean? That doesn't mean you're going to go undefeated against these guys. Doesn't mean their trophy case is going to be empty. But there's not a rivalry, and this is the problem with the contemporary when people bring up Brady Manning. People have totally forgotten that for 15 years, that was a real argument. Oh, yeah. So that it wasn't like, so if I can just remind people of the history of it, Brady, up until 06, Brady had the 3 championships. It was 2-0 against Peyton. But Peyton at that point had 2 league MVPs. And there was real question of, okay, Brady's good, but is he great? Like, that was a real question at that point. Then Peyton beat him in 21-3 comeback, went to the Super Bowl. And from that moment forward, Brady lost to him twice in the playoffs, and they played in Denver. Brady didn't win another Super Bowl until 8 years later. Peyton went to another one in Denver. And then when the day Peyton Manning retired, the Super Bowls were 4-2 Brady. The MVPs were 5-2 Peyton, and Peyton was up 3-2 in the playoff matchups the day he retired. And it was like, well, there was a real argument. The problem is after he retired, Brady went to 3 straight Super Bowls,
The interesting thing is, though, I think during that time, people were having more conversations about Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and less so Manning. And I can't remember exactly why or what the buzz was, but it actually felt more like people were debating more whether or not Aaron Rodgers and I don't know why that would be, or why now they're leaning into the Manning Brady, because that's what I mean, maybe I'm wrong, let me know. But that's what it felt like. And again, I'm just going based off of my memory right now. And I just feel like there was more conversations about how good is Aaron Rodgers, how elite is he is, he's better than Tom Brady. And, he's obviously winning MVPs and stuff like that, but not winning all these Super Bowls either. So, I think also the whole thing, Brady, what of course held Brady back was there was the constant debate with Brady of also Bill Belichick, because he won a handful of Super Bowls, and you couldn't say that it was because of Brady's brilliance, right? Like you could say it was because of amazing defense, and and sure, a smart play by Brady. It's not to say that they won, even though he was throwing a million interceptions here, but it was that, like, Brady definitely has more mythological lore than reality in a lot of things. And again, I think Brady's unbelievable, so I'm not knocking Brady in one bit. He was, to me, like the scariest dude, right? When there's 45 seconds left, a minute plus left, and he has the ball, like, you are nervous, right? I experienced that in, the Super Bowl, and it was just like, it's just never over with this dude. But no matter how old he is. And so I do think it's an interesting question, because what Nick Wright is saying is essentially that there is no rivalry right now, that it's so obvious that Mahomes is better than all of these other players. I don't know if that means that then there's not a rival, though, because think about when you're like a kid, right, and you have like a rival, in school, or or playing sports and stuff like that. A lot of times a rival, right, or is like your rival's like your older brother or older sister or something like that, or your younger brother for that matter, younger sister. It doesn't always have to be this like equal level of skill or equal level of accomplishments. Sometimes it could just be like, I want to beat you, and you could beat me 5 times in a row, right? And it's still like, well, because technically Josh Allen and Mahomes, Mahomes obviously beat him now 3 times in the playoffs, although I don't see it that way because it's obviously a team sport. But I would still say that they're technically rivals, because we're having all these conversations about them. We're putting them head to head. We're talking about it. We're saying Mahomes is 3-0 against Allen, right? To me, that's what makes it rival. It's not so much that, like, and Josh Allen would have to win 2 times or 3 times for it to now be considered a rival, which again, now you're just kind of getting lost in the game of semantics of like, what do we officially mean by, a rivalry? But I think for the most part, this idea that we have to kind of compare this, like, Lamar Mahomes to Manning Brady, no one really talks about Lamar Mahomes. Like, I don't see how is it the real Manning Brady rivalry, because I don't really think many people are talking about it. No one's really having this conversation, right? The conversations were so much more about Josh Allen. Think about it, how all last week we talked about how big of a deal is it for Josh Allen to win this game against Patrick Mahomes, right? Like, that's what the conversation was. And then when he lost, it was like, what does this mean for Josh Allen? Is anyone saying that with Lamar Jackson right now? Lamar Jackson has to win this game against Mahomes to prove that he is, so-and-so. No one's saying that. I'm not hearing that anywhere. I'm yet to hear that. I mean, I'm reviewing all these shows. I don't hear anyone having that conversation. It seems like Lamar has actually really been isolated from all of these other comparisons. When we talk about Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes, and again, Joe Burrow is such a tricky situation because he hasn't been able to play like a bunch of years together solidly. He keeps getting like banged up and having these issues, and he's also kind of dying out there in Cincinnati, which I guess technically Kansas City would be considered a smaller market team, relatively speaking, although now it's, obviously significantly bigger. But it seems like he does, if Joe Burrow was playing, in LA or something, or on a more blue chip program like Philadelphia, Dallas, like it would maybe, we would hear even more than we already do about Joe Burrow. But I think there was more conversations about Burrow and Mahomes, and no one ever really talks about Burrow and Lamar, or Lamar and Allen. Right? Like, we're never having these conversations. No one's ever saying, who would you rather have, Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen? But everyone talks about those types of things with Mahomes. So Lamar, and I think maybe because he has a more like introverted personality in that regard, he kind of just like pulls back, does his own thing. He seems to just be, more shy, and he's not, he doesn't chew up the mic. He really doesn't, and I feel like that's potentially part of it. Is he even on commercials? Honestly, like I never see him. I really don't know. I mean, unless maybe like in the local area, like within like Baltimore and DC type area, maybe. But like I never even see him on commercials. I see Josh Allen, right? Like the Razor commercial, or whatever. I don't think I really see Joe Burrow on commercials. But he has such a big presence, right? Joe Cool, smoking the cigars, right? He has that whole persona around him. His haircut or whatever, for whatever weird reason. But there is none of that with Lamar. Lamar definitely has the aura of just like, I put my head down and I play football. Like, he doesn't care. He doesn't seem to care about any of this other extra stuff. He just wants to play football. He doesn't want to do any of this other stuff. He just wants to play football. And I think, unfortunately, that hurts him in these type of narrative conversations. And why? I mean, like, because just think about it here. We watched now, first things first this whole season. And how much did they really talk about Lamar Jackson and the Ravens? I mean, they didn't. We talked more about Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen. Without a doubt. I mean, we can go back to their page and see all the conversations that they had about Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, and there was like no conversations about it. Obviously, at some moments there were, but for the most part, there really wasn't a lot of conversation. No one really dissected and broke down, how great are the Ravens. We said that about the 49ers, about the Chiefs, about the Bills, about the Cowboys, even about the Eagles, and the Eagles and the Chiefs get the benefit of the doubt since they were in the Super Bowl last season, so it makes sense to, have them on your radar. But like Brew even pointed out, Nick Wright and Greg Jennings didn't even have the Ravens making the playoffs. So if Lamar and Mahomes were this Manning-Brady rivalry, you would never say, well, I don't think Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are even going to, they're not even going to make the playoffs. You would never say that. Imagine saying that about Patrick Mahomes. You wouldn't say that. You wouldn't have said that about Brady, and you wouldn't have said that about Manning outside of, some bunch of fluke injuries and stuff. You wouldn't say that. So clearly, and I wish I knew why they said they didn't think that the Ravens were going to even make the playoffs. What's the actual reasoning behind it? But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting thing as to why Lamar doesn't get all of this attention.
To another one a couple years later, won another league MVP and distorted the argument. But during the entirety of Peyton Manning's playing career, there was a real debate who was better. That is not the case with Patrick Mahomes, if anyone's having an honest, real debate about it. So I don't think there is that right.
Would you say this? If the Ravens win this game, Lamar plays well, and the Ravens going to win the Super Bowl, do you think then it becomes a rivalry?
I think it is. I think that if Lamar wins the game, it is a rivalry in the way Mahomes-Burrow. I consider that a rivalry, but as far as, hey, he beat you, you got to go beat him, all that stuff. Yeah. I don't consider it a rivalry where the stakes are the best quarterback in the world. I don't think that title's up for grabs for the time being.
I would agree with that, but I do look, if Lamar gets the Super Bowl, now he's got one fewer Super Bowl than Mahomes.
Yep.
And the same number of MVPs.
And Mahomes would have, because this is their first time playing in the playoffs, Mahomes wouldn't have beaten him in the playoffs. So, yes, it would at least be, you could posit the argument.
I think people would be now, I think everybody still recognize Mahomes, for the most part, as the best player in the league. But I think, like, going into next year,
it would be like
prove it next year again. The two best quarterbacks in the league.
Yes,
let's see.
I agree with that.
Okay. Ravens safety Marcus Williams.
I don't know if that counts.
Brew.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is interesting because let's say the Ravens do go in there, beat Mahomes, win the Super Bowl. I think if Mahomes wins this game, that'll just add to his own personal trophy case of just being like, look what Mahomes beat, the MVP, the Ravens, the best team in the AFC, and, Patrick Mahomes, even on his down year, still, took them down. I think that would build his lore. I think if the Chiefs end up winning this game and going on and winning the Super Bowl, I think people would probably already consider him the GOAT. I mean, seriously, people would be talking about, like, can he win 8 Super Bowls, 10 Super Bowls, as long as he doesn't get injured and Andy Reid doesn't retire, retire, like what's the limit, for him? I think people would have that serious conversation because they're just like, look at all the success he's having right now. And that's why I want to see the Ravens play a good game, because if the Ravens play an actual good game and the Chiefs still beat them, especially because of Mahomes' magic, that will be impressive. But if it's one of those games where the Chiefs win, but it's like we can point to so many issues that the Ravens had, right? Dropped passes, dropped interceptions, a fumble on the 30, like all these random little things. And, I would say then that changes it from my perspective, because it just makes technically the win less impressive. What's ultimately impressive is when both teams are playing their best and the one team wins, obviously, right? Then you could be like, well, you got their best. But when another team doesn't bring their best and you win, we love to just like lean into that. Well, they still won, they won. Clearly they're the best. And it's like, that was just, they just beat them that game. They didn't actually prove that they're the best. And so I just hope that we get to see both teams playing well, and that if passes are being dropped, it's because of good defense. And if there's fumbles there, it's because of just hard hits and just good defense, right? If there's amazing 30-yard, 40-yard plays, it's not because of dropped coverage and and miscommunication. It's just because, man, that was an amazing route. Like that's the games we want to see, right? We don't want to have to keep pointing to these other reasons why certain things look the way they look. But I think if Lamar Jackson just makes it to the Super Bowl, I think that'll probably maybe put him in more of these discussions, make him more known. He's obviously known, but I like the mom test. My mom watches sports. She watches football. She watches Eagles games and stuff like that. But it feels like every game is practically like her first time in a lot. I mean, like she gets it. I don't want to make her sound like too, naive, so to speak. But I don't think she really knows she knows who Mahomes is, right? She knows who that is. She doesn't know who Lamar Jackson is. She has no idea who that guy is, right? It's just a dude. Who's that guy? Who's that guy in the purple jersey with the covering his eyes? Can he see? Like, why is he doing that? It's nighttime. But she knows Patrick Mahomes. She knows Tom Brady. She knows Peyton Manning. I assume she knew Eli Manning. I'd have to ask her. I'm trying to think of if there's any other big name quarterbacks this year. I mean, she probably knew Burrow, but now forgot him, because I guess too much time has passed since he's been in the Super Bowl. So I just think if Lamar not only makes it to the Super Bowl, but then wins, I think that'll actually be more of Lamar Jackson arriving than any of the MVPs and stuff like that, because I know to some degree we respect all those accolades and awards, but it just really seems these days it's just Super Bowl or bust for any of these big name players, right? Would it have been good enough for Josh Allen to make it to the Super Bowl and that's it? No. I mean, the whole question would have been like, oh my God, he couldn't win the Super Bowl. Can you win the Super Bowl with Josh Allen's play? That would be the question. And then the next season, if he's not playing great or unbelievable, it's like, have we overestimated how good Josh Allen is? All those types of questions. So I think with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, he has to actually win the Super Bowl for him to actually, I think, to truly arrive within the eyes of not only the casual fan, but again, the moms of the world and stuff like that, which to some degree may not matter at all, right? And you could say, well, who cares about whether or not, some random mom, who barely even watches football or knows anything, knows who the heck Lamar Jackson is. But that's all myth building and world building. And, that's what has made Mahomes into Mahomes, honestly, is it's not only his play. If Patrick Mahomes wasn't charming and charismatic and wasn't in all these commercials and didn't all this, you wouldn't be talking about him as much. You would still be talking about him plenty because he's obviously winning on the field, without a doubt, obviously. But it's just different because you become a celebrity, right? Right now, the people who only know Lamar Jackson are football fans. The people who know Patrick Mahomes right now is everyone. Everyone knows him. Everyone knows LeBron James. Everyone knows Steph Curry, right? But then you have Damian Lillard, or I don't know, maybe even Kevin Durant to a degree, and that's who that is. He's not a celebrity. There's a difference. So I think in order for Lamar Jackson to get in these discussions more frequently and actually have more pressure to talk about him and have these discussions, then that's what it is. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this one. Please let me know. Please don't forget to subscribe. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really helps the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.